breaking under expectations. Life pressure's getting me so anxious. I got dark clouds over my head. I can't sleep when I go to bed. Hard times trying to make me jaded. So I'm speaking to my soul. I'm preaching to myself. The sun's gonna shine again. Gonna feel it on my skin. So I'll hold on till the rain's gone. No, I'm not giving in. The storm's coming at me strong, but I'll keep keeping on. With the shadow as my friend. 'Cause the sun is gonna shine again. Sun is gonna shine again. Oh, the sun is gonna shine again. Sun is gonna shine again. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to LunchBreak Live. I am Jenny Owens, and as most of you know, we do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 12:30 Eastern, and Fridays are on Facebook and YouTube with our fabulous friends that we invite to join us. So this is a very special Friday because today, amidst a worldwide pandemic and an election in our nation fraught with frustration and uncertainty, I'm very excited to release a song that says, the sun is going to shine again, that there is hope to come, and that even in the meantime, we can find peace amidst the shadows of our suffering and doubt. But one of the things that I have learned from my own life is that this kind of lasting hope can only grow inside the heart. It does not come from our circumstances, no matter how great they might be on a given day. So with that in mind, what does it mean to face life's challenges with hope? Today, I want to ask some friends that question, some friends who have learned the answer really well. And I want to invite them to show us how to practice joy and find hope, especially on the darkest days. So our first guests today have been friends of mine for a good long while now. I don't know, at least 5-ish years, maybe even longer. And they hail from the great state of Minnesota. They have 3 grown daughters, and they have faced some challenging circumstances that have led them to write a book called Finding Glory in the Thorns, and to found a nonprofit called Walk Right In Ministries that builds faith and community with special needs families, or with families that have a member with special needs. So I cannot wait for you to hear a bit of their life story and what led them to this impacting work. So welcome, Lisa and Larry Jameson. So lovely to see you guys today.
Hi, Jenny.
Good to see you too.
Congratulations. It's a great song. We're very excited.
Oh man, it is so fun. It's fun to have it out, and it's fun to give some context to just say, I love that we get to talk, because I want to make sure to say, this is not fluffy. This is not about, there's going to be a better day, but this is about the truth that there really is hope, even in the midst of our hardest times. So I remember that we met working on a project for disability fundraising and awareness and ministry. And I was so compelled by your story back then, and really glad that you're willing to share it. And I thought, just for a little context, we might begin at the beginning briefly. So you guys have been married 32 whole years. Is that right?
Yeah, we have. We actually met at the University of Minnesota the first week as freshmen on my 19th birthday. And then we
I
actually
thought you were 19 now, both of you. No?
And I was 19 then. And we were like brother and sister for the first year. But then on Halloween night, so 35 years ago, tomorrow night, was our first kiss.
Oh my gosh, that is like totally romantic. I love it.
That's
and
me.
have you always lived in Minnesota since the first kiss? Since you
Yes,
were married?
we have in Minnesota.
Well, since then, yeah. But interestingly, I mean, God may have put us together anyway, but The reason that we even met was because we both had been living in Canada. Neither of us is Canadian, but God had taken our lives to Canada, and some mutual friends in the dorm who were dating introduced us because they thought we were both Canadian.
Hilarious. That's so great. I did not know this at all. I love it.
Fun fact.
Okay, well, so when you got married and started your life together, how long was it before you started having kids?
Longer than we wanted it to be.
Yeah, okay.
We were
Yeah.
trying to be pragmatic and have a house first and all that sort of thing. And we had really great careers, both of us. So our oldest, Alex, was born when we were married for about 5 years.
Okay. And what were your careers back then? I know that they've changed a bit now, at least for you, Lisa, but what were you guys doing back then?
I started off, I was working in public accounting. So I got an accounting degree from the University of Minnesota and worked for KPMG in downtown Minneapolis.
Yeah. And I was an English major. My parents were worried I'd be working at McDonald's, not knowing, because I insisted I didn't want to be teaching school, elementary school or something. But I had a child psych minor because I loved all that stuff and thought, well, at least it'll be practical for me when I have kids. And I never dreamed how both of those parts of my education would play in a very big way into my future.
That's so, yeah. Wow. Isn't it amazing? Like how God sees the bigger picture in ways that we don't.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Like, tell me about how your daughter, Carly, who's your youngest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when she came along, it sounds like she changed kind of the course of your normal life trajectory that you were on.
Really
Yeah.
good.
I mean, we were kind of following the American dream, careers, house, kids, everything seemed fine. We actually moved into our second house and Carly was born 2 months after that. And it changed everything. And it took us a while to figure that out, but it changed everything.
Yeah. She was actually 2.5 before we got an accurate diagnosis. So
what had been happening before then? Like what?
Well, yeah. I mean, we knew from the moment she was born that something wasn't right, but we didn't have any appreciation for how permanent it would be short of a miracle or how big it was. She has Angelman syndrome, and many babies born with that have feeding issues and sleep issues. And some are very, very content babies, and others are extremely the opposite, which is what Carly was. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't nurse. She couldn't even drink from a bottle properly. She had sensory issues that were so severe that she perceived being touched as if it were painful. So we couldn't hold her. We couldn't hold her to feed her or anything. So we used to lay beside her on the floor and try to hold the bottle and then get her back to sleep. And she had a horrible diaper rash on her bottom that my dad used to say it looked like somebody tied her up behind a car and dragged her on her bottom for a couple of miles.
Wow.
So it was really, that first couple of years was really hard. We knew she needed some intervention, but we didn't, we always kept thinking until she was diagnosed that she would just catch up someday.
Right.
And we had, for a short season, a number of people come around us in prayer and help, which was part of the inspiration for our book. But
wow.
Yeah.
Well, when you got that diagnosis, when they finally said, okay, she has Angelman syndrome, what was your reaction initially to that?
For me, I mean, it was really hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. And there was a season of digesting that. But it didn't last. It didn't last very long, because it was shortly thereafter that we started to figure out that, okay, instead of wallowing in the difficulty of this, let's look at the possibilities here and see what God is doing. That doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, because it wasn't. But at least we kind of changed our perspective at that point, took our eyes a little bit more off of us and looking more at the situation as a whole.
Yeah.
We had the whole range of emotions, from relief to feeling gut punched, because we'd already gone 2.5 years at that point, and a neighbor is the one who suggested, based on her knowledge of Angelman syndrome, that we might need to test her. And we initially dismissed that, didn't fit for us. But then Carly had a massive seizure, which led to her diagnosis. And I guess ultimately, the diagnosis in some ways was validating, because I think we not only felt like, but in a very real way, a number of people were distancing from us, thinking that we were being overly dramatic. This child has just got colic or something. And so on a weird level, the diagnosis helped us to really grasp and removed ambiguity in a way. Right. But it definitely started us into a grief process that in many ways, like for many special needs parents, continues yet today. There are triggers all the time.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how do you feel like you have kind of evolved as people from that time to now? Carly is in her early 20s, right?
Yeah, she's 22.
22. Yeah. So, I mean, tell me a little about just the lamenting and just the just what has changed just kind of in your lives, in your day to day, in your thinking. I mean, I know that's a really huge question, but what are some of the things that come to mind that have changed since that diagnosis?
Well, I think for me, some of it has to do with how I encounter God, because, back in the beginning, there were lots of prayers for healing and Lord, fix this. And then when it wasn't changing, when it wasn't being fixed, when there wasn't miraculous healing, then I would kind of pull away from him. And what I've learned over the years is that I just need to stay in communication with him, despite the fact that I may not be happy with things. If I can continue to approach him and just say, Lord, this is what's on my heart, and I don't really like this, and it's really troubling me, and it's troubling my family, and I wish it didn't. I pray that you would take it away, but help me to see your perspective in this. And like so many things, if we can communicate, to the extent that I can communicate with my wife, which I'm not always very good at doing, but when I can get those things out, it takes away kind of that pressure, and it helps to feed my hope, because then we can talk about it.
Absolutely. Wow, that's beautiful. Was that kind of part of the motivation for starting Walk Right In, was just kind of that hope and being able to help families talk about needing that hope, or can you guys tell me how that all started?
Yeah, it really was. Like I mentioned, we had such a remarkable experience in community for a couple of years when Carly was little. And I was at that point in my career, I was designing corporate training programs for Fortune 500 companies and traveling all over the world as a writer and designer. And so my initial heart personally was to write curriculum that would be faith-based for support groups, because nothing like that existed back in 2005, 2006. Mm-hmm. And we had realized that for all the practical help people were giving us and prayer, it was a lot of the faith-based encouragement that was really what was spurring us on the most, and just giving us strength and comfort and hope for the future.
Right.
But when we got it developed and someone connected us with an agent, she said, no publisher is going to put out a curriculum first. They'll want the book. So give me the book. And I said, we don't have a book. We'd written a tiny little, intro to the curriculum that told our story, which she thought was part of the book that we didn't have. So we had to go back and write the book first. The book was published, and a couple years later, we self-published the curriculum. And so, that was really the heart behind it, was to help facilitate faith-based community, Christ-centered community for families, recognizing that people in our shoes really needed that at the core.
Absolutely. Well, and one of the things that I really loved when I was reading on the Walk Right In site, which you guys can find at walkrightin.org, is that you talk, specifically you're talking to caregivers, but I think it's a great thing for all of us. Just certain things like caregivers must explore with great intention how we get energized right down to our soul. And we have to be spurred on by having a vision, a particular vision. So can you talk a little bit about the heart behind this, and specifically how you guys do this? How do you cultivate those things in your own life?
Well, I think it starts with, like Larry talked about, like we have had to learn how to lament well and to lament genuinely, not just privately, but even publicly. It's hard to kind of be real about your suffering and yet not wallow in it, and also not like just look like you're making lemonade out of lemons all the time. This is real.
They're just lemons.
Yeah, every day is really hard for us, and our future is going to be hard on a lot of levels. So yeah, I have to back up and just mention that even before Carly was born, Larry and I had gone through a season in our marriage that was so hard. And we were encouraged to seek out some counseling, which happened to be Christian temperament counseling. I'm not talking about the Enneagram. I'm talking about Psalm 139 and understanding how God wired us in our soul and how we fuel ourselves for life, And from that, we really learned so many things to equip us for this situation, this special needs parenting situation, and how to be married well in that and everything. Yeah. And so for me, yes, the vision comes from understanding the strengths of who we are, recognizing we also have weaknesses and vulnerabilities, but catching a vision for not just our purpose in the kingdom perspective, but catching a vision for how God made me uniquely and is going to come alongside me for this circumstance, because the circumstance, like you said in the song and earlier on, it may not ever change. Right. We pray with our mustard seeds of hope that there will be relief for us and for Carly and different kind of future. But at the same time, there's part of us at this point in our faith and in our lives where we would want nothing to change, because as hard as it is, we have seen God's creativity and economy through this that has fulfilled purposes so far beyond what we could have ever imagined. And it's kind of exciting when you can live purpose like that, actually.
Absolutely.
As men, as fathers, I mean, we're always in fix-it mode, right? We want to fix things. And when I realized that this was not something that I could fix, there's a certain amount of looking back and saying, God, I didn't sign up for this. This is not the picture I wanted my life to be like. But when I can get beyond that and see my role more as I still need to lead my family, and I need to lead my family to maximize all of the things that are possible in our life. It's just, we're going to go after what God has for us, whatever that is. And it may not look like what we thought it was going to, but it's still going to be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, I so appreciate you guys sharing today. And I was wondering if you might want to close with just a little reading from your book or from some things you've been writing, just kind of to give our listeners, our watchers a perspective on your journey.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to read because sleep is an issue for us still. Yes. I'm going to read a portion about sleep that actually would have been written in about 2006 when I actually wrote this. We ask every why question that could be asked. We agonized. Why is this going on so long, Lord? We would always circle back around to the same question, wondering, what are we missing, God? Constantly, I would suspect something must be lacking in me or us. If we had more faith, less sin, greater wisdom, or better ideas about how to help Carly when we thought things would change and improve, many nights Larry would walk through the entire house covering our family with prayer before the bedtime routine would begin. Needless to say, we both wrestled mightily on every level. The father of lies could quickly get a foothold in our doubts and frustrations and resentment, pulling us farther and further from God and each other. One night, when Carly was about 8 years old, and I was begging him to show me if there was some unconfessed sin in my life getting in the way of his help and our relief. I wondered if I lacked some special kind of faith. I asked God to make me more open to what nature of character building he must want to do in me. I begged God to fill me with more faith. I waged warfare against any spirits that were coming against the Lord's power to release healing and peace. Again and again, I would ask him to show me if this challenge was designed to help me grow. I suspected that I was being tested and that the Lord was teaching me patience and spiritual disciplines like prayer. So as Carly continued in her own restlessness and tears, I buried my face in her pillow and screamed. The answer came to me about 3:30 that morning. Out of the cacophony of thoughts and emotions whirling through my mind, one simple statement came to rest. It's not about you, Lisa. It's about me. It wasn't really a voice, but it was unmistakably God. As I lay there, God started methodically walking me through some important truths. My thoughts were quickly sifted and sorted and brought into stilled focus. Romans 8:1 says, "There is no condemnation for those who live in Christ." Satan was my accuser. Those shaming, accusatory tones I was hearing were not from the Lord.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, how incredible. I'm so thankful we all got to hear that word today. So thank you guys. Thank you for sharing, and tell us how we can find you so that we can connect with you online.
Well, we're, of course, all over the social media places that everybody thinks of.
Walk Right In. Is that
Yeah,
how?
Walk Right In Ministries.
Yes, Walk Right In Ministries. Lisa Jameson. I have a pretty big Instagram account. We're starting to move some of that over to a Walk Right In account. But otherwise, Walk Right In is on Facebook. And our website is walkrightin.org. So
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lisa and Larry. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
this was fun. Thank
Great
you,
privilege.
Ginny. Yes.
Thank you, guys. And just for those of you guys that might be joining us right now, we're having a special day of celebration, talking about how we find hope in the most challenging circumstances. Because I have a new song out about that kind of today. Well, not about the how, but about the fact that the sun will shine again. And just in case you haven't heard it, it goes like this. The sun's gonna shine again, gonna feel it on my skin. So I hold on till the rain's gone. No, I'm not giving in. The storm's coming at me strong, but I'll keep keeping on, with the shadow as my friend. 'Cause the sun is gonna shine again. The sun is gonna shine again. Oh, the sun is gonna shine again. And I want to introduce to you guys one more guest today, who I actually met through email. She was reaching out to ask about some chord charts for one of my songs. And so in chatting, she ended up sharing her story with my manager, David, and me. Gosh, and I am still so moved to tears by the journey that she has been on, but even more by the hope that she has found in the middle of that journey. So I am really excited for you guys to meet Rebekah Kelly today. She is a current student at Charleston University studying music. She is 19 years old, a very wise, awesome young lady, and she loves playing and singing, and she's going to do a little bit of that for us in a minute. And Rebekah says, "My life hasn't always been easy, but I've always been blessed." And I want her to tell us why today. So welcome, Rebekah.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for hanging out today. So let's start with a little detail about where you are in your life now. Are you a sophomore this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that is so cool. And what's your favorite class?
My favorite class is probably, because I am a worship major, we get to be on a travel team as a class. So that's getting to travel around our state leading worship. It's probably my favorite class.
That sounds like an amazing class. Oh, wow. Get to hang out with friends, travel, sing, and worship. That's super. Okay, what about your favorite study food?
Pizza.
Yes. If there's a college student in the world that does not like pizza, we are sad for you, and we're praying for your life, because that would be heartbreaking.
I haven't met one.
Yeah, I know. Me neither. Oh, man. And I'm even allergic to cheese, but I ate so much pizza in college. It was so great. So what about study habits? Are you like an all-night cram studier, or do you study kind of a little each day? How does that work?
I have to study in like small periods. I have to break it up. I can't just like sit down and study all together. But I think what's really cool is being a music major, most of our studying is practicing. And so definitely like spacing out practicing throughout the week and stuff like that.
Yes, that's so good. Yeah, I remember those years of being locked in the music rooms practicing. Although with COVID, I guess you practice a lot in your bedroom, in your dorm room right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about being the oldest child. So you have a younger brother, right?
Yes.
And your younger brother has a unique situation. Tell me a little about that.
So I am the oldest of four, but
Mhm.
my younger brother, who's now 16, he has Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of autism.
Mhm.
He's very high functioning. So we always said in our family, like, he views the world differently.
Yeah.
Um, he's one of the smartest, sweetest, most supporting people that I know, but he doesn't like certain social situations and he has a really hard time with fine motor skills. And so growing up, like, we just had to learn how to keep him comfortable in those situations that might stress him out a little more than normal.
Yeah. Did you find yourself as the oldest being protective of him at times?
Very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Well, let's talk little bit more about your family. So, a very big life change came for you when you were in fifth grade. Is that right?
I think so. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me about what happened.
So, it was in February. I was 9 years old. I was about to turn 10 because my birthday is at the end of the month. And one morning we woke up and my grandparents were in our living room and they told us like my mom had been really sick and gotten sick in the middle of the night. So my dad had taken her to the hospital, but that everything was okay and they were going to stay with us for a couple of days. And so we went about our normal routine of waking up, getting ready, going to school, doing after school activities. And about a week later, I woke up and my dad was home and he took me into the bedroom and he explained that like my mom had passed away that night. Um,
Wow. And so tell me a little bit about what that was like being the oldest. Did you and your dad spend some time really depending on each other, or was it really hard to even grasp that as a 9-year-old? Like, what do you remember what you thought during that time?
it was a little difficult. It was 3 days before my 10th birthday. So I think that was
Mhm.
the hardest at that time was I was about to have a big milestone of like turning 10, but this
Yeah.
was all going on. But it definitely was a shift of like I had to take over a bunch of responsibilities like doing dishes and helping out cleaning around the house that I didn't really have before. But me and my dad definitely got like really close through it. Um,
Yeah.
and really did like depend on each other to get through it and help each other out.
Wow. Wow, that is amazing. Well, it's as tough as things were, it does sound like, just as I was reading your story, it sounds like you guys were able to rebuild. And so let's talk about a little bit about what happened next. It sounds like another lady came into your lives.
Yes. So a couple months after my mom had passed away, my dad actually he had pulled me aside into the bedroom and he was like, "Hey, I'm going on a trip this weekend to Florida. You're going to stay with your grandparents. Everything's okay. I got to go visit a friend." And his best friend from college lives in Florida. So I assumed he was going to see them because they're like aunts and uncles to me. So I was like, "Oh, he's going to see his friends, like whatever." And then he came home and I'd asked like, "Oh, well, how are my aunt and uncle?" And he was like, "I didn't go see them." I was like, "Then who did you go see in Florida? We don't know anyone that lives in Florida." And he was like, "Well, I met this lady. We met on the site called Christian Mingle and we're friends. And so I went to go see her and her family. Would you like to meet her?" And so a couple days later, they were on a Skype call and I got to come talk to her. And then I found out shortly after that that they were dating. And then
Wow.
she would come and visit from time to time, and eventually they got married.
Wow. Wow. So she became your stepmom pretty soon after that, right?
Yes.
And it sounds like also during that time, a different thing happened. Faith was something like you had been around church a lot, but it sounds like faith became very real to you about like a little after you met your stepmom. So tell me a little bit about that.
So when my mom had passed away, my dad had sat me down and was like, "This this is what salvation is. Like this is how it works. This is what you need to do." And being 10, like I just remember hearing like, "Oh, well, your mom's in heaven, so if you get saved, like you'll get to go to heaven one day. And I was like, that sounds great. Let's do whatever that is. I have no idea what you're talking about, but like, let's say this prayer and it'll make everyone happy. So let's do it. But I didn't understand like the actual concept of salvation. And so a couple years later, my stepmom and I were at this conference and they were talking about how the world gives us these labels and how it could be anything from like, oh, like she's pretty and she's popular and she's smart to like she's weird, she's unusual and stuff like that. And they're like, but with God, what he does is he takes all of these labels off and he sticks on the only one that matters. You're a child of the king. And I just remember that night on the way home, like thinking through that, because that was something I struggled with, was the labels people gave me and not wanting to have that anymore, and realizing that I had never fully accepted God for who he was. And so I sat down and I talked with my parents and they were like, well, you know what to do. You grew up in church. Like we've talked about salvation forever now. Go spend some time one-on-one with the Lord and kind of deal with this on your own. And that was the night that I accepted Christ.
Wow, that is awesome, especially as a middle schooler. It seems like that is a wonderful time to have faith and to know that no matter who else is your friend, Jesus is always your constant, faithful best friend. But even with your faith, there were still some really difficult circumstances ahead. And so tell me a little bit about what happened on March 21st, 2017.
So after all of that, life had been pretty good around that time. My parents had adopted a little baby, so I had a new brother that was 10 months old, and school was going good. And then that night, in the middle of the night, I got woken up to be told that I needed to get out of the house because the house was on fire. And so my mom had woken me up. She had told me and my siblings, like, you need to go downstairs, you need to get out. My dad was trying to take care of it. And so I got out of the house and I found my brother standing by the mailbox, and we kind of like discussed like what we needed to do. And eventually we ended up going and waking our neighbor up across the street because she went to church with us. So we knew them really well. And they ended up like taking us in until some of our other family members got there. And we eventually like found out that my parents and my baby brother and my younger sister were found, but they didn't make it.
Wow. That is so very sad. That is such a heavy thing for a young girl, a high schooler, to go through. So tell me how you responded.
Well, initially, my first response was I needed to make sure my brother was okay because I was the only one out there. And so I remember that night, like bouncing around between talking to like the police officers and the EMTs and trying to figure out what happened, what was going on, and like finding these moments of just trying to stop and pray. Because I was like, that's what I would have been told to do. Like, that's what I felt like I should do. And at first I was like, okay, I feel like I need to pray, but I don't know what to say like in this moment. And it was cool because that Wednesday night I was supposed to sing the song Jesus by Chris Tomlin. And there's a line in the song that says, you stand in the fire beside me. And I remember like it was stuck in my head because I'd been practicing it. And I was like, well, Lord, I don't know what else to pray in this moment. So I'm just going to pray the song lyric because it's the only thing that I can think of. And I just repetitively kept praying through that. And I was like, stand in the fire beside them.
Yeah.
And then, so it was really hard because I felt like at first, like the Lord hadn't answered that prayer. I was like, they didn't make it. Like, I didn't understand until a couple weeks later when we found out, when my family went to go like see what they could save from the house and stuff, that in my sister's room, there was a spot on the floor that had been untouched.
Like the carpet.
And we had found out that like they had basically like passed out from CO2 poisoning and woke up at the feet of God. And I was like, he did stand beside them, even if it wasn't in the way like I was hoping he would.
Wow. So after that happened, I know you kind of had a journey of your own. I mean, for many obvious reasons, like just kind of battling with some anxiety and just some, PTSD. And I know that there are people who are watching right now who are going through difficult things, but they're probably listening and saying, wow, it's nothing like what you've been through. And so I'm wondering, how have you walked through with hope? Because I know you and I both, we're not saying that a life lived with faith in God makes everything better, right?
Yeah.
But we're saying that it does make everything different, and it makes hope possible because we know better days are to come. So what are some things that you do or that you've done as you've worked through your anxiety to kind of find hope? Like when the shadows are overwhelming or when it's a really hard day, what are some practices that you use to kind of get through those times?
So I think the first thing I almost always do is play some kind of song. There are so many songs out there where people have written about their own stories.
Yeah.
And that always is such an encouragement because even if it's not the same situation, it helps to know I'm not alone. But something I also keep in mind is someone wrote me this letter one time, and it says, God hears all of our unspoken words, and he sees all of our unknown wounds, and he'll mend any unbearable pain. So be strong because he'll see you through it. And that he doesn't give us what we can handle, but he'll help us handle what he has given us. And so that for me has always been the hope that even if, like, he's not just giving me like the things that I am capable of handling, but through all these things that I feel like I can't handle and can't control, he's helping me get through them.
Wow, I need a copy of that letter. That is incredible, and it is so true. It is so true. Yeah, it's not ever the neat little package we think. It is really learning to trust that he really does hold us even in those hardest times. Well, I know that you write some beautiful songs and sing some beautiful songs, and I was hoping you would share part of one of those with us today. Would you be up for that?
I'd love to.
Awesome.
So I wrote this song. It's called God Meet Me Here. And it's about those moments in life when you are at a low and you feel like all hope is gone, and coming to the realization that you're not going to be able to do it on your own. I wrote it from like the perspective of desiring to be close to God, but not ever being able to achieve that. And this song is coming to the realization that you're right, you're not going to be able to achieve that. So instead, pray that the Lord comes into those moments and meets you where you're at.
Mm, yes.
So yeah, this is God Meet Me Here. The world stops for a second. As it's falling apart, your brain's a million directions, but you gotta trust your heart. And you can't fall on your knees, but you hear his words speak. God, meet me here. Though I don't have the words, God, meet me here. When all I feel is hurt, when I'm drowning in fear, and worry draws near, God, meet me here.
Wow, that is gorgeous. I love
Thank
that.
you.
God meet me here when I don't have the words, when all I have is hurt, and when I'm drowning in my fear. God meet me here. That is that is beautiful, and it's spoken from true life experience, I know. So thank you so much, Becca, for being willing to share your story with us today.
Thank you for letting me.
Absolutely. Is there, do you have some of your stuff on YouTube or Facebook, or are there places that people can find your music yet?
So I have a couple of songs on my YouTube channel that it's just my name, Rebekah Kelly. But
Okay.
I also have taken over my mom's old blog called Worshipful Living. And so soon I will start posting my original music through that. And that's on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube.
And it's called Worshipful Living?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Well, when you start doing that live, please let us know and we'll make sure to post, but we'll post links to your YouTube songs for now so that people can find you. And we will be praying for you because we know this is a long journey and lots still ahead for you. Lots of joy ahead and lots of still learning to live with the loss that you've experienced. So we're praying for joy and for your hope to continue and grow and for your songs to continue to be beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing your heart and your life with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And enjoy class and eat some pizza for me.
I will.
Okay, sounds awesome. And thank you guys all for joining us. We will see you next week. Okay, bye.